Did you know that your thoughts create your mood? Happy thoughts, happy mood. Bad thoughts, sad mood. So negative thoughts create negative mood, and that could be why you find yourself in a negative space even when you don't want to be. So basically, if you change your thoughts, you can change your mood. I learned a ton of information from this book, Feeling Good by David Burns. It's basically like 5 years of therapy in a book. Studies show that bibliotherapy is actually a form of therapy. Basically, bibliotherapy meaning reading books that help you identify your thoughts can help you improve your thoughts and improve your mood and improve your life. This particular book is about cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy is thoughts, your thoughts and your thoughts, how they cause you to behave. And basically, it can act as a means of either speeding up your therapy, helping you to understand your therapy. It could improve the impact of your therapy. It could improve your healing and your recovery from whatever negative emotional cycles that you're in. So stay to the end, because in this video, I'm going to kind of break down the different types of cognitive distortions that we have, basically things that make us not look at life as reality, but look at them through the lens of our emotions and our feelings, etc. Right? And then I'm going to talk about some ways that you can, or some examples that you can use to help you work through these distortions and help you see things more in reality, and to help you be more rational, have better self-thoughts and a better mood, therefore a better life. And then you could decide if you want to actually pick up the book. At the very least, the book is good to help you understand therapy and the process of therapy and the different tools that are used during cognitive therapy, and also helps you to understand whether or not you need therapy and the types of biases that can come from dealing with a therapist, so that you know like the context of which you could take their advice or apply their advice to your life. I know it sounds kind of risky, like self-assessing your own, mental stability. However, the book does even start with a test for you to see where you are on the scale from happy to severely depressed. And that way you can see whether or not, this is a good start for you, or if you should seek immediate help because maybe you're, experiencing extreme depression. And if you have any sort of negative thoughts that could potentially be harmful to you, it helps guide you to say, okay, you're in a space where you really should seek help now, or you're in a space where you can kind of start here, or what have you. You can decide, but it is helpful, and this really helped me. I've never had a therapist. I've always thought about it and kind of wanted to, but I've done a ton of self-help in terms of reading different books and trying to pinpoint, certain things. If I have certain weaknesses in certain areas, I'll read a book on the subject to try to help me, and I'll be able to identify certain things. And that's the type of stuff that I share here with you guys, so you can, you know that I actually do this thing. But this book was really good on the mental wellness piece, because it helped me to see certain things that I was doing, and even things that I sort of worked on already. I was able to see like, oh, this shows up in a different way in this way. So it was really, really good, and I highly recommend the book. But let's get into the 10 distortions so that you can kind of understand it. I can't really super explain them because there's so much information in this book. It's like 700 pages, but I want to give you the important meaty aspects that can kind of help you. And then at the end, I'll talk about the ways that you can sort of implement it for yourself. So the first mental distortion that you could be having that is causing you to have a bad mood is all or nothing thinking. When you have all or nothing thinking, you're basically looking at things as black and white, right? You are not considering that there is certain gray area. You're not seeing how you can sort of tweak one area versus another and find a happy medium. You're like, it's either all or it's nothing at all. Like, it causes you to focus on, or it makes you basically a perfectionist. If everything is not perfect, then it's bad, right? If you do one small thing wrong, or you have one bad experience and the whole thing is particularly bad. Basically, it makes you feel, if you do something wrong, if everything is not perfect, then you feel worthless. You might feel like a failure, And we all know that perfectionism is impossible in any area of our lives. We're human. We can't be perfect. So if you are experiencing this all or nothing thinking and you're a perfectionist, then it is putting you in a bad mood, because you're inevitably going to either mess up, or you're inevitably going to experience circumstances where things are not perfect. So then you feel inadequate, you feel lost, you might feel worthless at some times, and that's going to obviously dampen your mood. So that's number one, all or nothing thinking. Number two is overgeneralization. So basically you're saying if one thing happens bad, then everything is always going to happen bad. Like, you ever heard people say, well, that's just my luck, or bad things always happen to me, or this is my life, or story of my life. Like, you hear people say stuff like that. So if when you're overgeneralizing, you're basically saying that because one thing bad happens in my life, my whole week is going to be bad, my whole day is going to be bad, my whole year is going to be bad. You're just thinking that this pattern is always going to continue because one bad thing happened or one unfavorable outcome happened. Number three is mental filter. It's basically focusing on one single detail of a thing and making the whole thing bad. Just like if you've seen different examples of, you have a glass of water and you put some food coloring in it, it turns the whole thing. If you drop a ink droplet in it, it turns the whole thing dark, right? And so that's the example that they give in the book, is that your mental filter is that you're focusing on one little detail, and because you're focusing on that detail, it makes the whole thing dark. Like, for example, if you were, I don't know why I came up with this, but you're doing a dance routine, you mess up one part, but the audience has no knowledge that you actually messed up, or you're giving a speech and you messed up and the audience has no idea because they're hearing it for the first time. But you are focusing on the fact that you messed up and you're like, it was terrible. Even though you got a standing ovation or whatever the case is, even though everybody tells you you did a good job, or your boss tells you you did a good job, whatever the circumstance, you're focused on that little detail that you messed up, so therefore it's done. That's the negative mental filter. Number four is disqualifying the positive. Man, when I read this one, I was like, oh my God, I definitely do this and have been doing this, right? You overlook the significance of the good things that have happened in your life because you're only focusing on what you don't have, and you're only focusing on lack. So if you have a level of success in a thing, you're like, yeah, that's great, but, right? So you're disqualifying that positive thing, and you're only focusing on what didn't happen, or what you don't have, or who doesn't like you, or who you don't, like saying, I don't have any friends, but you have like a couple of great core friends or people in your life, but you're disqualifying that because there are some other people that you want to be your friends, and so you're negating the positive. And you could look at many different examples in life where you're only focusing on the lack, and you're not saying like, well, I did do a good thing here, or this was a good year, or this was a good month, or focusing on the good things that happen. So disqualifying the positive also causes us to be in a bad mood because we're not even allowing ourselves to celebrate the good, the positive things that are happening, because we're just like stuck in that, amplifying that negativity. Number five is jumping to conclusions. I know that's something that I've done before, and I'm pretty sure that either you've experienced that or some people who've experienced jumping to conclusions. So you're basically coming up with a theory without any facts, right? You're just jumping right to the conclusion. Like, you could be one, mind reading, where you're thinking that somebody or some people feel a certain way about you, or think a certain thing about you, but you don't have any facts. You just think that, right? You just plainly think that. Or you could be being a fortune teller, where you think a certain scenario is going to turn out badly, and because you think that it's going to turn out badly, then it's already done. It's an established fact because you think it or you feel it, right? So that is jumping to conclusions, and jumping to conclusions can have you in a bad mood, child, even though you have no facts. Nothing has really solidified that for you, but you yourself has put these things in place, and now it is causing your mood to be in a bad mood. And you can turn it around by not focusing on the things that you sort of made up, but say, hey, what are the facts? What are the facts and the truth? What do I know to be true? And if you can't pinpoint that, then do not stay in that conclusion that you've jumped to. Number six is either magnifying or minimizing things. So magnification is when you're making things bigger than they need to be. Have you ever heard of blowing things out of proportion? Like, It really wasn't that serious. Have you ever heard people say it's not that serious? Yes. You're blowing things out of proportion. You're making them way bigger than they need to be. And you're probably focusing on something that is insignificant. But on the flip side, minimization is that you're minimizing something that's actually important and you're making it like it's not significant. So it's usually when you are dealing with something or you're trying to avoid dealing with something that's important, but you're minimizing it, where you could actually take some small steps to deal with the situation, but you're trying to make it small and hoping that it kind of goes away. You're trying to sweep it over under the rug. So that is also a mental distortion that will put you in a bad mood, either making things bigger than it is or minimizing things like they don't exist, where it's really there, it needs to be dealt with, but you're kind of trying to make it small. Number 7 is emotional reasoning. So because you feel a certain way, because you feel some type of way, you consider that to be facts of the circumstance. So because you feel like someone doesn't like you, or because you feel like you're not doing well at something, that you take that as fact. You're not actually looking at what's real and what's actually going on. The 8th mental distortion is should statement. So basically you're just saying that things should be one way or another. You've just made up a standard and now you're trying to make everything measure up to the standard. They should give you a raise. You should have this opportunity. They should be your friend. These people should like you, or any shoulds, right? You should be able to have this particular job or career, whatever it is. You just make up that should, and you want everything to measure up to it, even if it's out of your control, like other people's opinions and other people's actions and whatever the case is outside of your control. So you can't put should statements in place, because usually life is not going to measure up to those shoulds, and that's going to put you in a bad mood and make you feel bad about yourself, and could lead to depression. The 9th mental distortion, so number 9, is labeling or mislabeling. So labeling is basically saying, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm dumb, whatever. You're just putting a label on a particular thing that either you did or you experienced, and you're labeling it. It could be yourself or it could be others. Like, oh, they're good for nothing, or he's stupid, or, she can't get it right. That's labeling and mislabeling. So you're basically slapping a general label on a person or a thing or a scenario, and it's usually, what are the facts, right? Usually people are not totally good for nothing, that type of thing. The 10th mental distortion that pretty much causes you to be in a bad mood is personalization. It's all my fault, right? It's all your fault, even when it's not all your fault. So you're making it personal. You're taking things personal, even when you shouldn't take them personal, essentially. And so these 10 mental distortions that he gives, after that he gives examples of different scenarios where people are having these thoughts, right? And that's causing them to feel bad about themselves, causing them to be in a bad mood and be depressed, and potentially be depressed. And so it actually is the case that most of these distortions don't happen just by themselves. Typically you have more than one at the same time that's causing you to be in a bad mood. So you could be taking things personal, you could be overgeneralizing, you can be having all or nothing, all in the same, particular emotional cocktail, right? And so it helps you to see, as you read through the different scenarios, how you might be doing these things and how you can kind of deal with them and unwind these, negative spirals that we experience from time to time. And therefore it helps you cure your bad mood and helps you to find happiness and joy within, life's everyday challenges. Now, the book also gives you a bunch of different charts and exercises that you can use. I can't go through all of them, but I want to kind of highlight one of them that was used over and over and over in most of the examples. And it also gives you examples of letters that you can write to yourself, like, why am I not a total loser? Like, what successes have I had in my life? So different sort of prompts like that you can use to write letters to yourself, so you can have evidence and work through the thoughts that you're having. So one of the examples, or one of the tools that they gave in the book, is called the double column method. And with the double column method, you're basically drawing a T on the paper, and on one side you're writing the negative thought that you might have, the negative criticizing thought that you might be having, and on the other side you'll be writing the rational response. So you're basically defending yourself from yourself on the other side. So the first side you might say, I'm a loser. Let me just say, like, I'm lazy, right? You'll say that on one side. And on the other side, you'll say, well, I'm not actually lazy. I've done this, this, and this today, or I've gotten up today, or I did this week, or this month, or whatever, or I go to work every day, or whatever the case is. You defend yourself as to why you're not lazy. Another example is you might say on the criticism side, I am a total failure. On the defending side, you'll say, well, I'm not a total failure. I've had successes in XYZ. I got a promotion at my job, or, I got an A in a class, or I got a good grade, or whatever. I finished my project. So you could just put whatever successes that you had on the other side. You're basically defending whatever that criticizing thought is. And this was used in a lot of the examples where people were dealing with from just sadness to all the way to severe depression. This tool was used to basically help people see what negative thought behaviors they were having and allow them to be able to improve it and say, oh, I see what I'm doing. I see how this is not rational and this doesn't really make sense. Now I could kind of correct it. So it's a process. It's a journey. It's not something that, these negative thoughts that we experience from time to time is not something that we're going to get rid of. And it's not something that we can one and done heal it, right? It's going to be a process. But what we're doing here with this book, Feeling Good, is getting tools to see how we can identify and shorten that cycle, that spiral cycle, right? So you could, once you start to go into the deep end, you can say, oh, I see what's happening, and then I could fix it, right? And it's something that we will do throughout life as we get older and wiser and have different experiences and different circumstances happen to us that are, inevitable. But this book was extremely helpful. I do recommend that you pick it up. There is, at the end of the book, like about 100 pages about antidepressants and different reasons why you might use them, how they interact with your brain and things of that nature. So you can decide if that's something for you or not for you, depending on where you are on the spectrum. And if a doctor is recommending it for you, you can kind of get a better understanding of, is this something that I want to do? How is this going to affect my body? And are there other ways that I can sort of overcome this? So thank you so much for listening. Leave a comment. Let me know if this was helpful for you. Like, if you like these book breakdowns, are they helpful? I love reading, so I'm always going to keep reading self-help books. And hey, I figured if I'm already doing it, I might as well share what I'm learning, because I get excited when I get to do that. So thank you so much. I'm gonna leave a comment below so that we can get this interaction going. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video. It's helpful. I'm really trying to grow my channel, and I appreciate your help. And I will see you next time.